Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to this video series on firearm familiarization. Today is range day. We are gonna go shoot. In this video, we're gonna cover a strategy for hitting your target outside of sight picture sight alignment, just a quick and easy way to digest that. And then reloading, how to do reloads. And then we're gonna do some shooting drills and see what happens. I'm Delta 9 and this is Johnny Tactical. All right, before we get into reloading, we're going to talk about two mental strategies. It's actually one mental strategy, saying it two different ways to increase your accuracy. Because while you're shooting, there's a lot going on in your brain. There's a lot to think about. Everything from your stance, your grip, to your trigger press, to where are my sights, what are they doing? And you start to freak out a little bit and then rounds go flying. So you want to focus on your front sight. So your front sight is, with your pistol, your front sight is your main area of focus. So there's an expression that came from, I think it came from 6 Hour, or at least 6 Hour Academy. I went years ago. They always would say, float the dot, take the shot. And so what they're meaning is, like, you are not a statue or a tripod or a machine. You're a human. Your body's gonna be moving around. So that front sight is gonna be moving as you're aiming on your target. And as it moves, when do you actually pull the trigger? Well, you just gotta float the dot. So if my fist were my front sight, and it's floating over my target, imagine almost like a figure 8 pattern, because it's gonna be doing something like this. It's gonna be kind of going around and around. Every time it passes over my target, I'm floating the dot. Every time it passes over, I press the shot. So you float the dot, you take the shot, and also think about your first best sight picture. So you're like, okay, great, yeah, I'm standing in front of a paper target, but if I have a bad guy bearing down on me, like, what do? There's a lot to think about. Well, you take your first best shot. So every time that front sight is floating past that best target area, you're gonna take it. That's when you're gonna press the trigger to the rear and fire your round. And so it's floating the dot, taking the shot, and then your first best sight picture. So it's a fluid thing that's happening while you're looking down the sights of your gun. So don't freak out, or don't feel like there's something wrong with you because your sights are moving around quite a bit while you're shooting. That's perfectly normal, especially after successive shots, because you're gonna have recoil. You have to recover from that and find your sights again, and it's the same process over again. You find the front sight, you float the dot, you take the shot. It's just an easy way to think about it. It's a very, very, very simplified mindset, but if you just think of it in those terms, hopefully it'll put you at ease a little bit, take the nerves out, and then when you're pressing off each successive round, you'll start to see that they'll start to group correctly where you're aiming. So that's your first tip. Float the dot, take the shot, front sight, focus, and of course, your first best sight picture. That's actually 3 things. I totally lied to you, but whatever. It's free, right? Reloading. So we're gonna talk about this area here. So what do we do with our gun when we run out of bullets? It's gonna look something like this. It'll go to lockback. So if I'm shooting and I fire my last round, my gun is going to go to lockback. It's the way your semi-automatic pistol is designed. I mean, sometimes it may not, depending on how you grip the gun. That's a possibility. But when the gun's empty, if you pull the slide to the rear, if it's not locked there, it will lock on its own. It's the way it's made. So when my gun goes to lockback, I have to reload. And so what I'm gonna teach you is a method, which we'll call it our workspace. So inside here is my workspace. So if I were to face the camera like this, my workspace is somehow in this window. It's like the strike zone in baseball. It's just a little higher than the strike zone in baseball, but it's this window I'm gonna work inside. So this is my workspace. Imagine a rectangle from my elbow to the tip of my finger. And so my workspace is here. What this does is it allows me to keep my threat in view, my target in view, and also have my gun where I can see it. I don't want to fire to lockback, lower my pistol, and then start reloading from here with my head down. With my head down, I can't see what's going on in front of me or around me, and that's just a dangerous place to be. So when I go to lockback, I'm gonna bring my gun into my workspace. So it's gonna look just here, like this. With my right thumb, I depress my magazine release, and my magazine is gonna come loose. So from my workspace, I press the magazine release, and so my support hand is already here. So as this magazine releases, I'm gonna essentially strip it, catch it or strip it with my left hand, and I'm gonna toss it aside because it's empty. It's dead to me, it's useless. So from here, it's gonna look like this. The press the magazine release, and I'm here, I'm gonna help it out. I'm just gonna pull it out and let it go. You can rely on gravity, it should work. But for like combat or for personal defense, you may be in a pickle. You may have been rolling around on the ground. It may be bad weather. You may be, I don't know, covered in mud or dirt or grime or whatever. You're just in a fight for your life. Or maybe you're wearing long clothing because it's winter time. My magazine has this little lip right here. And that is what I'm going to use to pull it out, and I'm going to toss it aside. We shoot our last round, it goes to lockback. We bring it into our workspace, which is right here. My elbow is like resting against my ribs, just like this. I can see my threat, I can see my gun. Magazine out, I help it out, get rid of that. And my magazine pouches are on my support side, which is my left side. So then I'm gonna access my magazine. And I'm hoping the camera can see this, but my magazines are right here. And when I get my magazine, what I wanna do is, I want to reach down deep into my magazine pouch, and when it comes out, I want to be in this orientation. This is called indexing. Indexing allows me to use my sense of touch to guide my magazine into the magazine well. In other words, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this and get my magazine in this fashion and then try to aim it like this. You'll have less success than if you index it. So I want to reach down deep, so I might have to drive my thumb like even behind not only behind my magazine pouch, but behind my belt even, and get a nice deep grip on my magazine. As it comes out, I'm gonna have it in this fashion, okay? So when you have your magazines loaded into your pouch, you always want your bullets towards your belt buckle. So it's gonna be in this orientation. Index my magazines, I just take it out just like this, and I'm gonna turn towards the camera so you can see. From my workspace, I can see my magazine well, I can see my threat, I can see my magazine. That's pretty important. And I can do all this fast. I can strip this out, I can get my new one, and once I get here, I'm gonna have a brief pause, and I wanna go back to back, like this. Fast, fast, brief pause, make sure I go back to back, marry them together, and then push it home with some intention. So none of this, Okay, we don't want to do that. We want to push it or slam it into the gun. Your gun is built, if it's a good quality gun like this gun is, you can hit it hard and nothing bad's gonna happen to your gun. Don't worry about it. So we slam it home, and then we're gonna bring our hand, our meaty part of our hand, up over the top of the slide and push pull, like we showed you in an earlier video. What you don't want to do is the slingshot. Okay, the slingshot is like this. Some people will pull with their thumb and their forefinger like this, and they'll try to slingshot it. You don't have a lot of surface area with just these two fingers, okay? We want to use a gross motor skill, a big fat motor skill, like the big fat part of your hand. And I'm gonna just pull back, push, pull, and charge the weapon, so now it'll be ready to go again. Another option you can do is you can use the slide catch to release the slide. You can use your strong hand, or you can use your support thumb. I should say thumb, not hand, thumb, to release it. But again, it's a fairly fine motor skill. Under stress, you may miss, or you may, I don't know, slide off, depending. A never fail option is just the big meaty part of your hand, wrap it over top, push, pull, and you make your gun hot, okay? So we're gonna go through that one more time, step by step. Bang, fire my last round, my gun goes to lockback. I come into my workspace to press the magazine release, help this magazine out by ripping it out. I cast it aside, I do not need that. My hand is already low, so I go right down to my magazine pouch, and I get a nice deep grip on my magazine, pull it out nice and like quickly, but with intention and purpose. I have this, my pointer finger is along the nose of the bullets, and I go back to back. Push it home in one nice motion, and then I'm gonna bring my support hand over the top and I'm gonna push pull, make my weapon hot, and now my gun is ready to go. All right, so the sun's a little bright. I hope you can see everything okay. I got no shade here. There's no hiding from this, so we're just gonna do it this way. Just briefly, ready position. So once the gun's out of the holster, I'm just gonna double check, make sure it is empty. Once the gun is out of the holster, I don't always have to go back to the holster depending on why it's out, what I am doing. A low ready is just, you might see some stuff going on like this, or even up here. This is gonna get tiring pretty fast. You might see the FBI doing stuff like this. What you really want is your muzzle pointed in a safe direction, and you want some comfort because you could be out there for a while. So a low ready can be literally just in here like this. It can be tipped to the side. There's a stool position where it's like thumb to thumb, and then your elbow's up and the gun is severely pointed downward. This is like kind of going out of style. People used to love this because it looked sexy and they felt real comfortable like this. You just gotta adapt to the circumstances that you're in and the range that you're on or whatever it is that you're doing. So you have a low ready, which can be down here. You can have an inside ready, which is here, like I can ward off an attack. I can peek around a corner like this, but I have to be very mindful not to pass my hand in front of the muzzle because remember, lasering, right? So we can have a low ready, we can have an inside ready, and then we can have a high ready, or some use a temple index where the gun is actually up by the temple. I prefer a high ready here where I can see my muzzle out of the corner of my eye, and everywhere I turn, the gun goes with me. The only thing you have to remember is if you turn your head, you have to turn the gun because you just don't want to be looking away and having the gun out of sight. So those are the other positions you can have while the gun is out, besides having a holster. There's also a holster index that I recently learned where you basically take your thumb and you just stick it in your holster and you can walk around like this. Your gun's in an imaginary holster and it's pointed in the same direction as it would be if it were in the holster. That may be another option for you. So those are your various ready positions. Very simple, but just think about comfort and longevity because you could be out somewhere for a long time depending on the application that you're using it in. Once you are ready to go live, so this is my target right down here. This bad guy paper target is he's my threat, and so I'm gonna address him. If it's your first time to the range or you haven't been in a long while, go back over my dry fire video and do some dry fire. It's just simply, obviously you're gonna make sure your gun's safe. You're gonna look down the magazine well, the breech face and the breech, look away, magazine well, breech face, breech, make sure there's no ammo in there, and then you can just practice. Do a couple dry fires, practice your draw, come back to the holster, and just do a few of these. Dry fire is always great. Especially when you're about to go live, it'll just kind of get that muscle memory back. Make sure you have eye protection, ear protection. I'm gonna go with soft ears, which are just the little ones I stuff inside my ear canal because I'm outside, it's not that bad. Also make sure you have a first aid kit. I got one in the car a few feet away if something terrible were to happen. So the first thing we're gonna go over is reloading. So the way I'm gonna set it up is I have 3 magazines. I'm gonna start with just 2. And all I'm doing is I'm gonna put 1 round in each magazine. Now bullets are expensive, so you wanna maximize your ammo usage with how many repetitions you get so that you get the most out of your bullets, okay? So I'm gonna practice my reloads. I have 2 magazines with 1 round each. I got those ready to go. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shoot 1, reload, shoot 1. It's gonna be just like that, okay? I'm just gonna go by the numbers. So I'm gonna index my magazine, even though I'm not coming from the pouch. This is from my pocket, but it's my first magazine. Every time I reload, I wanna make sure that I use the same process. So try to stay away from administrative stuff like I just do it like this while it's in my holster. That's great if you're in a range where they don't like people walking around with guns and stuff like that in their hand. However, it's bad habits. So we want to make sure we're always reloading the way we should be reloading, which is from our workspace here. So I'm going to go ahead, make my gun hot, and I'm going to go back to the holster. We're going to shoot from the holster. So I'm going to fire 1, reload, fire 1. All right, we're going hot. All right, here we go. And I'm just going to take my time. I'm not going to rush it. I'm going to try to shoot center mass, and I'm going to get a nice shooting platform, a nice aggressive athletic stance. My weight's going to be shifted slightly forward, my upper body, so the weight shifts to my toes. And I'm going to access my firearm here, clear my holster. I'm going to do the nutcracker grip, bring my gun up, center mass. Now notice I've got my trigger pressed to the rear, and I'm going to release. Fire again. Oh, I'm empty. My gun didn't lock back. It's empty. Magazine out. New magazine in. I index my magazine. I go back to back, push it home. Meaty part of my hand, push pull. Come back on target. Follow through. All right, that's 2 rounds. My gun is not locking to the rear. One of the things about the grip that I showed you earlier is when this hand is up high, if you can see here, when this hand is up high, sometimes I can disturb the magazine catch, which will prevent the slide from locking to the rear, which can happen. Don't freak out about it. So I'm going to reset. Go through the numbers one more time. Workspace. Take my index, my magazine, back to back, slam it home, push pull, and we're ready to go. Back to the holster. Here we go. We're gonna fire 1, reload, fire 1. So that's your basic reload. It's actually really simple, and if you go slow and by the numbers, you'll start to speed up. In this video, we covered floating the dot, taking the shot, which is just when that front sight is up, you're gonna focus on the front sight. You're gonna press that trigger to the rear without disturbing your sights. And as your front sight moves around a little bit, you just press the trigger with your first best sight picture, and it should be hitting what you're aiming at. And then we went over reloads. Just make sure you have your magazines on your support side, and just follow the numbers. Do everything from your workspace. Bring the gun in, magazine out, access your new magazine, back to back, slam that baby home, and push pull to charge that weapon, make it hot again, and then you'll be back online. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe, and also come back for the next video in this series. I'm Delta 9, and this is Johnny Tactical.